Hi, this is Brendan from Watto Training, and in this tutorial we take a look at Heavy Vehicle Driving Assessment Outline for the On-Road Driving Assessment. The source of information for most of this tutorial is from the QSafe Policy and Procedures Manual. Focus of the on-road assessment. Assessment will focus on the skills and knowledge required for higher order operating of heavy vehicles. This includes higher order skills involving broad cognitive, technical, communication, and vehicle management. It also requires knowledge about hazard perception, risk control, and safe driving behavior, judgment, decision-making, and multitasking that builds on basic driver license requirements across a nominated heavy vehicle class and driving situations. Key terms and their meaning. Multitasking is the concept that one can split their attention on more than one task or activity at the same time. Hazard perception is an important skill and takes time and experience to develop. Demonstrating you have the ability to identify and safely respond to hazards represents an important step in your journey to become a safer driver. Understanding how to scan the road ahead, recognize a potential hazard, and respond safely is a skill that will protect you and others on the road. Having time to make decisions when driving can be the difference between responding safely and having a crash. Remember the three-step approach. Scan. Continue to scan the road environment and identify risks when driving at all times. Recognize. Recognize the difference between potential hazards and hazards that require you to respond. A hazard can be any potential source of danger on or near the road that could lead to a crash. A hazard could come from any direction. Respond. Learning to recognize a hazard early allows you to make a well-informed decision on the safest way to respond. And just to reiterate, a hazard is something that has the potential to cause harm, while the risk is the likelihood of harm taking place based on exposure to that risk. Here is a sample of the pre-assessment briefing that an assessor will go through with the applicant, i.e. the driver. The assessor will outline the following to the applicant before the on-road driving assessment. This on-road assessment has been designed to evaluate your ability to drive safely and correctly in different driving situations, which may include a variety of speed zones. I will be asking you to undertake a series of driving tasks throughout the assessment. You'll be given clear directions in ample time. If I don't give you any specific directions, please just follow the road and be directed by road signs, signals, and markings. Do you have any questions? The traffic situations that may form part of the on-road assessment, but not limited to, include traffic lights, roundabouts, lane changes, level crossings, school zones, roadworks, pedestrian crossings, bicycle storage areas, bicycle lane, staggered intersection, combination turn, stop signs, give way signs, form one lane, and merge and diverge. Assessment route difficulty. This is a guide for the assessor's reference when conducting assessments, but it's also good for the candidate to know what to expect. The following points in relation to test route difficulty must be considered. When designing assessment routes, avoid including driving situations that are known to be particularly problematic or hazardous. When selecting assessment routes, situations where applicants are directed into the area with different traffic restrictions should be avoided. For example, altered speed limit, which are not signed at that particular point. Assessors should avoid exposing applicants to the more difficult specific driving situations at the beginning of the test so that the applicant has time to settle into the assessment. For example, it would be preferable not to direct the applicant onto the freeway at the beginning of the test. Safety on the test route. It is essential that the design of all test routes takes into consideration the safety of the assessor, the applicant, and other road users. A duty of care is a legal obligation to take a reasonable standard of care when doing acts that could foreseeably harm others. Location of manoeuvres. There are conditions that must be considered when deciding on the locations for conducting manoeuvres. For example, reversing, uncouple, recouple. These conditions must be taken into account when assessment routes are being designed so that appropriate assessment locations can be incorporated and the safety of the exercise assured. Vehicle check. The vehicle check is carried out immediately after the assessment has officially commenced. If the vehicle fails to pass the check, then the assessment is terminated at that point. Assessor positioning. Assessors are required to stand to one side of the vehicle and not in the direct path of the vehicle prior to asking the applicant to turn the vehicle ignition to accessory. This will ensure the safety of the assessor in situations where the applicant accidentally engages the vehicle and the vehicle may make a sudden movement. The purpose of the vehicle check. The vehicle check is a visual check of the vehicle to assess its suitability for assessment purposes. It is not an assessment of the vehicle's roadworthiness as carried out by government transport inspectors. Vehicle checks may include, but are not limited to, flashing turn signal lamps, brake lights, centrally mounted park brake, brake levers, number plates, tyres, bull or roo bars, registration of the vehicle, motor vehicle inspection labels, windscreens, windows, doors, driver aids, seats, seat belts, rear view mirrors, internal sun visors, rubber/anti-slip material on brake and clutch pedal on the driver's side, general cleanliness, speedometer, steering wheels, warning devices, dashboard warning lights, dangerous goods vehicles, portable warning triangles. Trailer checks, MC and HC classes. The performance expectation is as follows. Visual safety checks of internal and external condition of trailer is undertaken in accordance with manufacturer specifications and workplace procedures by the applicant. Defect reporting. The applicant should report and or rectify identified problems, faults or malfunctions promptly in accordance with the regulatory requirements and workplace procedures. Load. The load is checked to ensure dangerous goods and hazardous substances are appropriately segregated in accordance with the current Australian Dangerous Goods Code as required. The load is secured in accordance with load restraint guidelines and protection equipment for different loads, carrying and storage conditions. The load is protected in accordance with legal and workplace safe requirements. Ensure that the applicant is applying the 3 points of contact to enter or exit the vehicle safely. Further, be wary of the walking direction around a heavy vehicle, such that the driver and or the assessor is not turning their back unnecessarily on the traffic. Current road rules and heavy vehicle national law or applicable state or territory law and regulations are identified, interpreted, and applied by the applicant. Assessment of operational driving skills. Heavy vehicle is started and stopped in accordance with traffic regulations and manufacturer instructions by the applicant. The driver should operate or adjust all the ancillary controls of the vehicle correctly whilst maintaining full control of the vehicle. For example, the air conditioning would be one example. Accelerator. The driver should operate the accelerator pedal smoothly and progressively for both acceleration and deceleration. Engine power is managed to ensure efficiency and performance and to minimize engine and gear damage. Braking. The driver should use the brakes in a manner that is appropriate for the situation. In general, they should slow the vehicle smoothly and progressively. The handbrake/park brake should be only used when the vehicle is stationary. This criteria point should not be marked critically in cases where the driver brakes heavily, but in full control and in a defensive manner to avoid a hazard that was beyond their control. Clutch. The driver should control the clutch in a manner that produces a smooth take-up of power to the driving wheels and assists in changing gears. Gears. The driver should demonstrate correct usage of all the gears appropriate for the speed, vehicle, and driving conditions. All heavy vehicle gear changes should be made within the optimum rev range for the vehicle. In some cases, skip shifting is an acceptable practice. Consideration should be given to whether the speed is appropriate for the gear ratio and the nature of the vehicle conditions at the time. Stalling. The driver should control the vehicle to prevent unnecessary stalling. Steering control. The driver should steer a steady course and maintain the correct course in a manner that is appropriate for the road and traffic conditions. Steering operation. The driver should operate the steering wheel in an appropriate manner, that is, hand over hand or the pull-push method. After the turn, it is permissible for the steering wheel to slip back through the hands, providing the driver maintains control of the steering. Road position. The vehicle should be in the correct road position appropriate to the road or traffic situation. Maneuver positions. During the heavy vehicle reverse maneuvers, the maneuvering vehicle should be positioned within the stated guidelines. In this case, if it's a left-hand reverse, the vehicle must start and finish within 2 meters of the curb and parallel. Left turn position. The driver should negotiate a variety of left turn situations, including lane and unlaned roads. Roundabouts, traffic lights, stop signs, give way signs, and uncontrolled crossroads. Right turn position. The driver should negotiate a variety of right turn situations, including marked and unmarked lanes, roundabouts, traffic lights, stop signs, give way signs, road-related areas, and uncontrolled crossroads. The driver should select to maintain an appropriate position on approach, during, and immediately after the turn. Assessment of hazard recognition and decision-making skills. Observation, scanning, and shoulder checks. The driver should scan, observe, and monitor the driving environment in every direction as appropriate to the driving task. Efficient driving. The most efficient route of travel is taken by monitoring and anticipating traffic flows and conditions, road standards, and other factors likely to cause delays or route deviations by the applicant. Mirrors. The driver should use the rear vision mirrors on the approach to any hazard or potential hazard. Signaling. The driver should signal in the correct direction long enough to give sufficient warning to other drivers and pedestrians when intending to turn, diverge, move into the edge of the road or curb, enter a line of traffic, at a T section where the continuing road curves to the left/right, leaving the continuing road to proceed straight ahead onto the terminating road. Signaling. The driver should signal in the correct direction for 5 seconds before moving off from a stationary curb. Hazard detection. The driver should detect and respond appropriately to any hazard, e.g. the broken down vehicle. A hazard may be any physical feature such as traffic lights, a roundabout, intersection, bend or crest, or any potentially dangerous traffic situation developing ahead. This may be interpreted as anything which will either cause the driver or have the potential to cause the driver to change speed or direction. Note, consideration must be given to the speed of the vehicle, any defensive action taken by the driver, for example, covering the brakes, and the potential for danger. Okay, judgment. The driver must judge and utilize a safe gap in traffic when negotiating intersections without causing other road users to take evasive action. The driver must make a correct decision and respond appropriately with regard to judgment of the speed and distance of any traffic or pedestrians. Safety margins. The driver should ensure there is an appropriate buffer zone in the front of and to the sides of the vehicle, and that it is in the correct position when stopped in a line of traffic. Road sharing. Importance of road sharing principles is applied when driving a heavy vehicle, including interacting courteously with other road users in accordance with road rules to ensure safe and efficient traffic flow by the applicant. Risk factors. Contributing risk factors to potential crash risks are identified and taken into consideration by the applicant. Fatal 5. Inattention, speeding, drink and drug driving, failure to wear a seatbelt, and driving while fatigued. Other variables that the driver needs to be aware of and manage. Drive to conditions. The driver should progress with the general flow of traffic at a speed that is not excessive for the situation and without exceeding the speed limit. Acceleration should be smooth, progressive, and appropriate for the traffic conditions. Signs, signals, and road markings. The driver should obey any regulatory road sign, traffic signal, or road marking. The driver is required to bring the vehicle to a stop as close as practicable to but not over the line, if there is no line before reaching the traffic lights. Drivers are allowed to drive over single and double continuous white dividing lines to avoid an obstruction or to pass the cyclists, so long as the driver can do so safely. The level of hazard must be taken into account when making the decision. Maneuvers. Hill start. Move off smoothly from a stationary position and travel up a moderate incline without rolling back. Applicant demonstrates appropriate observation and scanning techniques. Applicant demonstrates appropriate scan signaling during the maneuver. Reversing in a straight line. This is relevant for classes HC and MC. Performance expectation. Select a quiet area where there is good visibility and plenty of road space with a minimal risk of inconveniencing other road users. Select a straight road where the applicant demonstrates driving ability by reversing in a straight line for approximately 40 to 50 meters. Criteria. Applicant successfully reverses for a distance. Applicant successfully stays within approximately 2 meters of the curb and parallel. Applicant uses appropriate pullover to the curb procedure prior to the maneuver. Applicant uses appropriate steering techniques. Applicant applies appropriate vision principles. Applicant uses appropriate technique to depart curb after completion of maneuver. This one is now looking at the heavy vehicle only sequence class HC, uncouple and recouple. A driver for a class HC vehicle is required to uncouple a trailer, drive forward approximately 10 meters, and then reverse back onto the trailer to recouple, ready to drive off. The driver should be able to uncouple and recouple the trailer, having regard for all safe practices, in the correct sequence within approximately 12 minutes. Heavy vehicle, park, shut down, and secure procedures. The heavy vehicle is parked, shut down, and secured in accordance with manufacturer specifications, traffic regulations, and workplace procedures by the applicant. This has been Brendan from Watto Training. Thanks for watching.